Natural Hazards Center at the University of Colorado Boulder. I am so honored to welcome you to your 45th annual Natural Hazards Research and Applications Workshop. Nearly 1/4 of you are first timers this year. So to you especially, I want you to know that when I say welcome to your annual Natural Hazards Workshop, I mean it. Well, the Natural Hazards Center team has had the profound honor of organizing this workshop for 45 years. This meeting is what it is because of you and the sense of purpose that you bring to everything that you do. This year, we are obviously doing things differently than we have ever done before. But as I will share with you this morning, there are still many traditions that we are going to maintain, even under these exceptionally trying conditions. I have been thinking for a while now about how to start this year's workshop as I look out into the void of a computer screen, rather than at all of your smiling and supportive faces. I had considered asking us to hold a moment of silence for all of the people who have now perished in this pandemic. And then that made me wonder, what if we held 1 minute of silence for each person who had died from this dreadful virus? As of this morning, 568,736 deaths have been confirmed globally as a consequence of the coronavirus. If we were to remain silent for 1 minute for each person lost, that would translate into 395 days of silence. But here we are together. And while we will remember the dead from the pandemic and the many other natural hazards that continue to unfold around the world, it is clear that we cannot remain silent in the face of all of this suffering and loss. What this community does is always important, life-saving and life-sustaining. But our work has taken on a new energy and a new urgency as the environmental, social, and economic threats we face continue to mount. So during these special days together, we will do what we always do, even in this new way. We will gather to share our knowledge, to listen to one another, to ask questions, to learn, and to go forth with renewed sense of commitment that emerges from a respect for one another and for the people that we serve. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this community, and thank you for who you are. Before proceeding any further this morning, I also want to offer a word of thanks to the Natural Hazards Center team. It was less than 4 months ago, April 1st to be precise, when I picked up the phone and called Jennifer Tobin, who so capably serves as the Deputy Administrator of this center. I'm going to reenact for you how that phone call went. And just so you know, Jennifer and I have known each other for 14 years. So Jennifer knows when I call her that I'm calling her for a reason. So here's how it went. Me, Jennifer, I need to talk to you. Jennifer, yes, Lori, what do you need? Me, I need to tell you 2 things. Jennifer, okay. Me, first, we are going to have a workshop this year. Jennifer, that is good to know for sure. What is the other thing that you want to tell me? Lori, deep breath. It is already clear that there is no way that we are going to be able to gather in the Omni Hotel this year. That means we are going to need to move everything online, and I have no idea how we are going to do any of it. Jennifer, Lori, that was actually 3 things that you just told me. Let me think on this for a minute, and I'll get back to you. As you all may be guessing right now, Jennifer no longer picks up the telephone when I call her, but much more seriously, Jen moved into action so gracefully, as she always does, and along with Jolie Breeden, Jeffrey Gunderson, Katie Murphy, Jason Van Horn, Megan Costa, Robin Albright, Terry McKenzie, and the rest of the team. They led the charge to move the workshop and the researchers meeting online. In addition to this core team, every single person at the Natural Hazard Center has played a role in making this possible for us all to still be together like this. Right now, I'm going to imagine in my mind's eye that we are all together, and these people whom I so deeply admire and care for are receiving the standing ovation that they so rightfully deserve. Thank you, Natural Hazard Center team, for all that you do and for being my family. This online platform and your commitment to joining together has now translated into our largest workshop and researchers meeting in our center's history. As of late last night, we had 814 people registered for this workshop and 475 people for the researchers meeting. 90% of the workshop registrants are here with us from 47 different US states, as well as from Washington, DC, Puerto Rico, and tribal nations. 90% of participants hail from 95 continents, including Sally Potter from New Zealand, who was our first international registrant. While we are deeply saddened that we are not all together in Colorado right now, our endless quest for the silver lining has reminded us that moving to this virtual space has allowed more people from more places to participate in this meeting than ever before. We are thankful for that, and we are so thankful for you. No matter where you come from, no matter what your affiliation, one and all are welcome here. Thank you for joining us. Each year, during the opening ceremony of the workshop, we acknowledge the recipients of the awards that the center gives out each year. This is the time during the Monday morning welcome when I would ask Ponmalay, Alana Lua, and Betty Lai to come to the stage to introduce the recipients of the Mary Fran Meyer Scholarship. In lieu of that, this year, what I did was I asked Ponmalay and Betty to please record a video describing the Mary Fran Meyer Scholarship, its intent, and its purpose. And they did that, and they did a beautiful job. And they even did an outtake video that they shared with me where they were dancing on the screen. Unfortunately, we figured out this morning that there's some kind of glitch with my computer that isn't allowing me to play videos so you can actually hear it. And so what we're gonna do, we put all the videos up on YouTube, adapting as we've had to learn to do. And so they're all up on YouTube. And so we're gonna share the videos of Ponmalay and Betty introducing this scholarship and of the three winners, so you can all watch these videos. But what you will hear Ponmalay and Betty say is that the Mary Fran Meyer Scholarship was established in 2003, just prior to Mary Fran's untimely death from cancer in 2004. And when the Extension Disaster Education Network and the Association of State Floodplain Managers reached out to us and said that they wanted to start a scholarship in Mary Fran's name, we turned to Mary Fran and we asked Mary Fran what she wanted that scholarship to do. And Mary Fran responded that her hope was that any scholarship funds could be used to bring persons to the workshop who otherwise might not be able to afford to attend. Ponmalay and Betty were recipients of the Mary Fran Meyer Scholarship Award years ago, and now they've become leaders in our community. This year, we're so thrilled to share with you that the three recipients of this year's scholarship are Kristen Cowan from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Pega Farsha from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And Chelsea Lenoble from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And Chelsea, Kristen, and Pega are all doing fantastic and transformative work that is at the intersection of research and practice. And again, I'm so sorry that the video sound is not playing this morning, but we will again share these videos for all of you. The next award that we always give out on Monday morning at the Natural Hazards Workshop is the Student Paper Competition Award. But before we give out that award, I want to again give a shout out to the Association of State Floodplain Managers. Not only did they play a role in founding the Mary Fran Meyer Scholarship that you just heard about, they also every single year have given a consistent gift to the scholarship to help make it possible. Thank you to Chad Berginis, Larry Larson, and the entire ASFPM team. Now, as I mentioned, the next award that we would be giving out is the Student Paper Competition Award. Candace Evans and Jessica Austin are both graduate students here at the Natural Hazards Center, and they co-chaired this year's undergraduate student paper competition and the graduate student paper competition award. And so we will also post their video online so you can all watch it and hear them introduce our two winners from this year. First is Sydney Dick from Mount Royal University in Canada, who wrote a fantastic paper that focuses on Indigenous communities in the context of the Cascadia subduction zone and the incredible earthquake risk that is experienced in the region. Congratulations to Sydney. And our graduate student paper competition winner this year is Chushi Lee from the University of Delaware, who has written a paper about cultural history and cultural memory that is also posted on our Natural Hazards Center website. She is on the job market and her paper is absolutely path-breaking. And so I hope you will join us in congratulating her. And again, we will post her video as well. Now, the third award that we give out on Monday morning is the Mary Fran Myers Gender and Disaster Award, which was actually established by the large and global Gender and Disaster Network. And the Mary Fran Myers Award recognizes disaster professionals who continue Mary Fran's goal of promoting research and evidence-informed practice focused on gender in hazards and disasters. This year's recipient, Marina Hamadzah, is an engineer by training. And after several years of professional service as an engineer, she actually moved to the United Nations Development Program, where she worked on gender issues in disaster in Afghanistan. And in that context, it's estimated that some 70% of all disaster victims are women and girls. And so Marina, driven by a deep and abiding commitment to gender equity in disasters, continued that work through the United Nations. And then she traveled to Kyoto University in Japan, where she completed her postgraduate studies, also focusing on gender in the context of disaster. And I'm very excited for you to watch her video as well and prepared to be inspired. Congratulations to Marina as well. Thank you everyone I hope you will reach out through the platform and offer your warm congratulations to these recipients. And thank you for welcoming them into this community. I'm going to close out this morning's opening session by sharing with you a bit more about some of the traditions that, like the sun rising in the east, have always been a constant at this workshop. I actually attended my first natural hazards workshop 20 years ago. It was the year 2000, and I was a new graduate student here at the University of Colorado Boulder. The workshop was held back then at the old Millennium Harvest House Hotel along the Boulder Creek. And I will never, ever, ever forget the energy and the anticipation that first morning of the Natural Hazards Workshop in that hotel ballroom when it was time for the opening introductions. Whenever people learn about, first-timers especially, learn about this tradition of everyone standing up to introduce themselves on the first morning of the workshop, they always ask two questions. Why do you do that? And how do you do that? The why is rooted in the recognition that if we are going to work together effectively, we need to know one another. And one of the best ways to know one another is to share our names and our affiliations and to meet one another. The how we do this is a little more complicated. On Monday morning during the workshop, part of the director's job is to set the rules so that we can get through all those introductions on time. That means that we don't get to add a hi or a hello to our name because that takes up too much time. We don't get to add titles to our name. We only get to say our name and our affiliation. And under no circumstances at this workshop do we use acronyms, because oftentimes acronyms also divide us and we don't know what we're saying. And so now, though, because we're in a virtual space for the first time in 45 years, we're all not going to be able to stand up and do these introductions. But I'd like to try something different this year so we can all get used to our virtual platform. One of the things that you will hopefully have noticed already, and I see many of you are using it, is that in this feed loop area, there's a chat button that you can click on. But also in feed loop, there's an additional area off to the right where you can be chatting. But the issue is if you chat on the side of the page, the speakers can't see what you're saying. So instead, what we're asking during this year's workshop is if you want to ask something or share something or say something, to use that chat button. And so now I'd like us to all try this out. If you will you go to the chat button and will you click on it? And will you put in there your name, your affiliation, and the number of workshops that you have attended? And so my entry would look just like this: Lori Peak, Natural Hazard Center 19. So can we give that a try? Thank you, everyone. Second tradition I wanted to share with all of you. At this workshop, sessions start and end on time. We've asked all of our moderators, as well as our panelists, and now we're asking all of our participants too, to ensure that just like every other year, that we make sure that we start and end these sessions on time. That's so we can get to the long lunches and the breaks, and in the past to the barbecue. Dennis Milletti and Kathleen Tierney, both former directors of the center, used to joke that the sessions have to start and end on time because they only exist so we can get to the breaks and to the lunches. Well, they were indeed always teasing about that because the sessions are so important. They were also making the point that it's during these downtimes when we actually get work done, when we get to meet new people, when we get to reconnect with old friends. And this is oftentimes where the magic at the workshop begins. Also, another one of our traditions that we are missing so much this year is the barbecue. Good food, Colorado beer, and those breathtaking views. But none of those things matter so much without all of you. So we're already looking forward to that next time when we can be together. A fourth and final tradition that I wanted to highlight this morning that you are all integral to. A hallmark of the workshop is the way that it brings together people from diverse sectors, backgrounds, and walks of life. Every year at the workshop, we ensure that we have a mix of participants from academia, local, state, and federal government, nonprofit organizations, and the private sector. And about 22% of our participants this year are students. Gilbert wrote back in 1975, before our first workshop, that workshops provide a ready opportunity to exchange detailed information and to argue for the merits of various perspectives, but they need to be attended by professionals from the full range of disciplines and by policymakers from the various levels of government. We take the view that everyone is an expert here, and we know that you all have a story to share, knowledge, and information. That's the reason why we set aside nearly half of all sessions when we can for question, answer, and conversation so that people have a chance to meet one another and to share what they know. So everyone, thank you for allowing me to share a bit about our past as we stare now into an ever more uncertain future. And thank you to all of those who are making this workshop possible through your participation. Thank you to the National Science Foundation, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the U.S. Geological Survey, who all support the activities of the workshop. We are so very grateful. We also want to acknowledge Impact 360 Alliance, directed by Scott Miles, which has supported again this year the beautiful and brilliant graphic recording of Elise Birnbach with Graphic Recording Studio. We will be sharing her images throughout the workshop that she creates as you all create new knowledge and information here. As we prepare to launch into the next 3 days of workshop activities, I want to remind you that there is a lot of information both in this feed loop portal, but also on our Natural Hazard Center website. I especially want to draw your attention to the schedule on the website because I understand there are some issues with time zone translations through feed loop. And so just remember, if you're uncertain or unclear about when something starts, you can check out the schedule on the Natural Hazard Center website, and remember that everything is in Mountain Daylight Time. Now, in the spirit of starting and ending on time, and maybe even ending a little early so we can get over to see our keynote speaker, it is time to transition over to our next session. And we're going to hear from Chris Johnstone, who is the co-author of the book Active Hope that inspired this year's theme for this workshop. We realize that we are living in an ever more turbulent natural world and an ever more unequal social world. Using Active Hope as our guide, we're going to take stock of the pressing realities we face. We're going to create a vision for the future. And then importantly, we're going to identify actionable steps for us to take as individuals and also as a collective to move that vision forward. So with that, I thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining this session, and I'm looking forward to seeing you over at Chris's keynote address and looking forward to activating hope with all of you. Thank you, and please take care of yourself and others.